This video lesson is on your final paper that you'll do for college in the schools, Composition 1, UMD, Writing 1120. But oddly enough, you're going to look at this ahead of time and be able to see, because the essays that you'll do leading up to it will be based off of the topic for this argumentative research paper. So you'll actually look at this video lesson and look at these directions well in advance of actually completing your final argumentative paper. So I'm going to walk you through these. Obviously, as it is 100 points, literally worth twice as much as your other essays. It's imperative that you pay attention and ask questions when needed. So this will be a culmination of 3 essays, and eventually you'll get to all of these, and there's a video lesson for all of them, of a comparison contrast, analysis of a source, and a literature review and annotated bibliography. Those 3 essays will be based off of the topic that you choose and research that you choose for that topic and find for that topic for your argumentative research paper. So it'll be working your way up to it, like a culmination, this paper. And components and actual sentences and information for all 3 of those essays will most likely end up in your argumentative research paper. So here we go. Topic. It's going to be part of 3 essays, 150 points, and then part of a final essay, 250 points. So you could imagine why it's incredibly important then for your semester grade and quarter grade to pay close attention and pick a topic that's of substance. So this could be something that's from your summer reading. Maybe you read something this summer and it's continued all the way through and it interests you, or it could be something current that has happened. So as a college student, I'm not going to give you a list of potential topics like I did last year. I think you know what's a worthwhile topic or not. However, as opposed to last year, with a simple cut and dry yes or no type argument for your argumentative in Composition 1, these topics can be a little bit more on the, I don't know if the word gray is correct, a little bit more on the not so cut and dry landscape, but that's up to you. So I'm going to go through some suggestions of how to pick a topic, and it's very important that you pay attention here, please. Pick something current. Why wouldn't you? Why not pick something that's evolving or happening? Maybe as you're researching, more happens and you find incredibly current information. And it's fine to pose a research question and at the end of your argumentative to not have it 100% answered if it's still evolving. Like you can end your argumentative saying, this is where I stand currently at this point on my research question, but perhaps something more will happen and that could change my mind. That's perfectly legal, and that's an incredibly intelligent topic to choose. Pick something that isn't simple. No offense if this was like your topic from last year, but sometimes people pick something like, trying to think of a simple topic from last year without offending people. I'm thinking of my class list. Though it might seem advanced, I'm going to pick something like animal testing. Animal testing is so cut and dry in so many ways. You're either for or against it. There's really hard to find a gray area. And it's just not one of those topics that's easily debated constantly because it's just too black and white. It says pick something with multiple opinions on it as opposed to a simple yes or no. And it says ideally you create your own angle on the topic. Perhaps pick something that's so current that there isn't a yes or no, and that you pose a research question and you answer it in some original way. Please don't pick a topic that's been done a million times over. I think you know what most of those are. Again, like last year, pick something that's more factual than emotional. Emotions don't win arguments. And how about this? I'm just going to put it out there. How about read a magazine or newspaper? How about go to the opinions section in the Duluth News Tribune and see what's being debated? How about read magazines? Go online, actually read like a worthwhile, like time.com or something, and see what topics are being currently debated, to pick something that's fresh, original, and new, and that, heaven forbid, you might actually learn from. And then I can't help but say it, look to the world and try to see all that is happening in it. Try to look beyond just our geographical location or the United States. But again, sometimes those are worthwhile topics too. So these directions I wrote on August 12th. And here are some current topics that are happening. When I wrote these on August 12th, it's currently the 26th of August as I do this lesson. This is one that you've heard and will hear from me before. It's so current and so debatable and could be written about, I think, in so many different ways. And that's the ISIS and their rampage through Iraq. And if right now you're going, what's ISIS? Is that something from the movie Frozen? I'm really concerned for our country, as this is something that's become uh, a hot plate discussion. And it's even evolved since I wrote this on August 12th with the beheading and execution of an American journalist. I mean, it's turned into something that would be so worthy of discussion. Number two, I listed there. This interests me because I have a slight science nerd lean towards me. The Ebola virus that two people caught, missionaries that were down, doctors and a nurse that were down in West Africa, and there were concerns about it'd be easy for this virus now to leap because we're so interconnected, and all it would take is one person coming back on a plane, and voila, we have an Ebola breakout. And there are some people that literally says it's a time to close off our borders more. And then some people are like, wait a second, are we prepared enough to deal with something like this? That could be fascinating. How about this one? And it's still going on. There was the shootings in Missouri where there was racism called against the police and there were riots. A person could look into that in such detail and depth and have a research question of substance. This one, I bet you many of you don't even know. There's an explicit sexual education book to be used in California. If you were to look that up, it's not just your typical sex ed book. It took it to different levels, and there's some parents that are in favor against it and some that aren't. This is a very local one, just as an example. The Ely Bear expert controversy. The DNR took away his license to study the animals. There was a court case. I mean, that's something, just an example of something local that it could at least be discussed. And another local one, the school imbalance in the Duluth schools. There some people think that there's better classes offered at Duluth East as opposed to Duluth-Denfeld. That'd be something that maybe even you'd find out that our Hermantown curriculum isn't as good. Think of where you could go with that. What I'm asking and what I'm telling you to think about is to perhaps pose a research question. Pose a question such as, instead of saying yes or no right away, should the United States put ground forces in Iraq, if we're talking about this one? Notice I'm trying to put questions after each one of these. Are we prepared enough for a potential like pandemic outbreak? Notice there's no yes or no right now. All of these are ways that can be put into a research question. And at the start of it, it's okay to not know how to answer that yet. Think of how much more enjoyable the research would be if you haven't answered the question yet, and then you can look to answer it. You might actually find more merit and be more excited in the research that you find. Of course, you're going to clear these topics with me, and that will be done at a later date. Research. You're going to research both sides of the topic thoroughly and completely. The comparison contrast essay you'll find when we get there ask you to do just that. You're going to take the time to look at both sides of the argument clearly and effectively, not just for this paper, but for life. There's nothing worse than a person who only can see their side of the argument and never allows any other semblance of argument on the other side. That becomes somewhat frustrating. You cannot be that closed-minded and closed off. Requirements. It says 6 pages minimum, 10-page maximum. This does not need to be a dissertation. 10 pages almost seems to be too much. 6 to 7 pages would seem to be about right. As we continue on with this class, you'll find ways to cut and to be strategic and get to the point. 8 sources minimum, and that is a minimum. And quality sources, I think you know what we're talking about. MLA followed fully, and the form, it's your choice to organize it as you choose. Notice these requirements are left vague intentionally because you're a college student. And as a college student, you should be able to figure out exactly what a paper like this should be. And since we're not getting to it until the very end of the semester, excuse me, to the very end of the semester, you'll have several papers leading up to it that'll give you a very strong idea as to what this should look like. However, if you're unsure, you can always ask. So remember, you're getting these directions early solely for topic selection. Before you go to write this paper, you will take care of 3 essays that revolve around this topic. Much of the information and even paragraphs and sentences from these particular essays will end up as part of your final research paper. So we're doing this almost as like a flashback, flash forward kind of an idea. If you have any questions, you can always ask me through Google Classroom, or of course you can come in and talk to me about this one. It would only seem to make sense that this topic that's going to follow you for much of a semester and worth essentially in so many ways because of these 3 essays and the 100 points here is worth 250 points. You would spend time contemplating and pondering what you choose. This is the directions for your argumentative research paper.